in the eyes, the old Lawrence Dumont Stadium, somebody picked up the base and he couldn't get it out. And I said, twist it. He's twisting it and he gets it and he runs over. He goes to first base, throws it in the stands. He says, you're not using the base. Why should we,
Running low on fuel shouldn't slow you down. That's where Juice Fuel comes in. Wichita's convenient mobile fueling service that brings the gas station straight to you. Whether you're managing a fleet, running a job site, or just don't have time to stop and fill up, Juice Fuel delivers fuel directly to your vehicles, saving you time, money, and hassle. No detours, no downtime, no waiting in line. Download the Juice Fuel app, visit juicefuel.com/Wichita, or give them a call at 316-402-2246 to learn more. Josh, thanks for sitting down with us, man.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I know you are a busy man this time of year, so we're catching you in between assignments. You were umpiring UCLA at Iowa last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Oral Roberts versus Oklahoma yesterday. And you have Penn State, Nebraska this weekend. Do you just live out of a suitcase this time of year?
Yeah. Just pack your bag, throw it in the back, and then you become your own travel agent too with travel and flight. They used to take care of some of that for you, but now it's just a flat fee. So you're collecting miles and collecting Marriott points. And luckily my soon-to-be son-in-law is a United pilot, so I get a little bit of break on that. But it's driving 14 weeks in a row, and then postseason starts. So it's on the go.
So the travel's on your dime?
It is. It's a flat fee for the leagues pay you, and then you pay whether you drive, fly, rental cars, hotel, and that's the way that it is with all major Division I sports now with football, basketball, and baseball.
Are you guys contractors? You get 1099?
We are independent contractors, so we do get 1099. There's some arguments on whether or not we truly meet independent contractor status, but that's what we are currently.
And you get paid by the NCAA?
We get paid by the conference.
Ah.
Yep. Each conference has a different little contract that we sign and work with. And then each conference has a different assigner that I work with. So the Big Ten and the Big 12 is the same guy, so that's helpful. But then the SEC has their own guy. The American has their own guy. The ACC has their own guy. The SEC has their own guy. So you're dealing with multiple different people, multiple personalities, most of which I've all umpired with before at some point. So I kind of know them because it's my 30th year of Division I baseball. So it's just relationships and then dealing with them.
Yeah. Do these conferences go for you individually or your crew? Like, how does that all work?
Yeah,
do they try to hire your crew?
No, it's individual, and they assign you to a school and a different crew each weekend. Now you work with the same people, a few times a year, but for the most part, you're just going to a different place and meeting up with a different crew each week. And sometimes you'll be the crew chief, sometimes you're the two, sometimes you work the plate game too, and then you just rotate, clockwise, depending upon where you start.
What does the crew chief entail? What makes that different than the other three umpires?
The crew chief, he'll just head up the communication between the school and us just to verify times and when all we're coming in and where we're staying. And then if there's any, decision that we get together and we all kind of have different things, it kind of falls on him to do. And then he's the one that makes decisions in replay. So it kind of goes by seniority a little bit, but I think I'm crew chief like 5 times this year. And then the rest of the time I'm just a member of the crew. But as you know, when it's your turn to work the plate, you either can or you can't. So there's no crew chiefs when it's your turn to get behind the catcher.
Do some conferences pay better than others where you're like, no, I don't want to go work the
there's
American?
some little bit difference, of course, between Power 5, Power 4 now, and American. American's a good conference to work for sure. And there's some mid-majors that Sun Belt, they know their baseball is good, and so they try to be competitive with the other teams in their footprint. But it ranges between $600 a game and $1,300 a game. So depending on which conference.
Man, that's the CPA in you. Right away. It's 1099 work?
Yeah. It's the heat of tax season. I can't get the damn thing off my mind.
Just got done doing my taxes, so I'm with you, taking every deduction that I possibly can. Gym memberships and phones and travel and upgrades and meals and all that stuff. So.
Oh, I know how it works, man.
In officiating in probably any sport, you have to cut your teeth to get to a level like Division I. What did that process look like for you?
That's a long answer, but I've thought about this, and I started at the Heights League when it was just beginning, way out in the beginning, and I had a buddy whose dad was kind of in charge of chalking the field and putting the bases out. And I was 14 and needed a coach pitch guy, so I went and did it. I think I made $7 an hour, and to this day, my buddy Jason still takes credit for starting my career. And then we played in a tournament at West Urban, and I saw the quote-unquote real umpires, and they were dressed and looked like real umpires, so I thought. And so then after our tournament that I played, I asked if I could do it. And so I just started at 9-year-old baseball. I still remember the team was the Pirates, and they were a travel good team, and I think I made $7.50 for that game at Far West Field, and
we're familiar with Far West Field.
It was truly eye-opening for me, and they were all depending and waiting on my calls, and I was 15 years old, and then that just evolved, and I worked at West Urban all through high school and college. It was way better than waiting tables or working fast food, because you make your own schedule, pick your own nights, do the games, and on the weekends there's 10 games to work on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you can make $100. Holy cow. So worked my way up there, and then in 96 and 97, I assigned all the umpires at West Urban and umpired a little bit as well. And then I went to the Alaska League in 98 and 99 doing some small college stuff, 95, 96 when I was still in college, working the Summer League, the Jayhawk League, the Broncos, Elkhart Dusters, the Hayes Larks, just traveling around with people, and a lot of people saw that I had a little bit of skill and talent for it, and then just helped. The umpire community is great as far as developing their own. It's not a cutthroat thing, because we always need umpires. So there were several people: Bob Homolka, Dennis Walker, Randy Wetzel, Chris Koski, Tim Norman, just to name a few, who really helped me along the way. And so now I'm trying to do that with guys that are Division II, Division I now. But I worked a little bit of high school JV stuff, the end of my the middle of my college career, and then I worked some junior college. And from there, it's just repetition, seeing pitches, seeing plays. And then eventually I got an opportunity to work a Wichita State game. It was my first Division I game in May of 97, I believe. So this is my 30th year, and they played Iowa State. They don't even have a team anymore. And in the notes, it said home plate umpire Josh Schepis, who is currently on athletic scholarship on the track team, umpired the game. And so I worked that, because they did it kind of last minute. Iowa State was on their way down to Oklahoma City to play in the Big 12 tournament. And they just needed somebody last minute. And they said, well, this guy's been umpiring junior college. And so I got the call, and that's what I did. And then go to the Alaska League, get some good experience, and then get some opportunities at some smaller places like Oral Roberts. And then those guys that I mentioned before would take you to, non-con games, midweek games, Tuesdays, to try to get your feet wet at Oklahoma State and Wichita State. And then eventually the guys that assign hear your name enough and you get hired. So I got hired in the Valley, worked in the Valley for a long time. And back then it was a mid-con league, now the Summit League. Worked some conference tournaments in the Summit League and Mid-Con League, and then eventually got hired in the Big 12 in 2009, and then in the Big 10 probably after Nebraska switched over, where they needed some people on the west side. And now it's just a free-for-all. You'll go wherever, whenever. There's no real geographic footprint anymore. So it's kind of the evolution, and then started working conference tournaments. Started working NCAA postseason in 2010. It was my first NCAA regionals, so I've worked 15 NCAA regionals and 2 NCAA super regionals, along with 6 Big 12 tournaments and 4 or 5 Big 10 tournaments. So,
what do you think you have to do to get to the College World Series?
It's just some of it's numbers, some of it's evaluation, some of it's just you have to work so many league games, which I meet every year, 25, and then you have to work some conference tournaments, and then you have to work a minimum of 3 regionals, and you have to work a minimum of 3 super regionals before you get considered. It's very tough. There's a lot of good umpires out there, and some of it's a numbers game too, but you never know. It might happen, it might not, but I've seen some really good baseball and met some really cool people along the way and have some really cool stories. So
Yeah.
Maybe it will, maybe it won't.
Did Stevenson and Kibnitz treat you with respect back when you were umpiring Wichita State in the 90s?
I would not be the umpire I am today without those two guys, and I tell them that all the time now. You'd go into Wichita State, and it was like a regional every night. There were 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 fans. You'd go work Oklahoma State back in the early 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, and there's 7,000 people there on a Tuesday night. And, then you go to your weekend series, and there's 500 at Southern Illinois. So Wichita State, and you had to be good because they're behind you yelling ball four, and you suck, and they know your name. And Gene would stand at one end, and Brent would stand at the other, and depending upon who was batting, whether they were batting or pitching, was where the screaming was coming from. And Gene, I remember a story. Gene came out and yelled at one of my partners about balls, and they can't hit that pitch. And he says, "Well, I'm more scared of Brent than I am of you, so I'm calling more strikes for both teams." So those guys would get in the dugout, and you'd hear trash cans banging, and Brent would start going the mound, and Gene would say, "I'm pulling him," because Brent would never pull a pitcher. It was always Gene. Brent would just go visit with him, and so you'd hear them kind of going on in the day, and you're like, man, I hope they're not going to turn and yell at me. And then JT at first, there's no replay back then. You just have to be good, and you have to be able to talk your way out of it. So, early in my career, working so many games at Wichita State prepared me for sure for SEC regionals and super regionals and, Big 12 tournament games in front of, however many thousands of people. So, without in Oklahoma State too, down there. I started going down there when Doc Holliday was there, and then, Frank Anderson. So they've had some great teams and great coaches down there.
Doc Holliday?
Yeah.
Who's that?
He was the old coach before.
Oh, really?
For them, and his son is currently Josh Holliday is the coach there now. His dad was the coach there before.
Interesting.
And he was a intimidating looking guy. He's not now when I see him, but when you're 21 years old going down there and he thinks you're gonna, do something to make his team lose, he can be pretty intimidating. So
yeah, I bet.
You were thinking about the OK Corral.
Yeah, the gunfighter.
Yeah.
You ever seen Tombstone?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like Doc Holliday.
He does their announcing now for ESPN. He's their play-by-play guy for all the Oklahoma State games on ESPN. So
it's great that the umpire community is as close as it is, like you said, because, man, that's a job that's easily criticized. You can't please everybody all the time in a profession like that. So it's great to hear that community is as tight as it is, because you really only have, yourselves.
Yeah, it's just you on an island when you're working the plate, and so many guys have been there and done that, and they're just very helpful, and we're also pretty honest with each other too. You get in there like, hey, did I miss that pitch in the third, or what'd you have on that play at first, or whatever, and we're just on. Now we get replay to switch it, but back when you're before replay, I think he might have missed it. And then we got a little bit of TV after the hockey strike in 14 or 15, where they were playing a lot of games on TV. So we started watching our games and became even better at the plate because we could see the pitches and see the plays. And I missed that because I was here instead of here, or I was quick, or whatever it might be. And then the invention of TrackMan and replay is even taken a bigger step forward in that. In that process, but having guys that have been there and done that, and that's the thing that right now I think we're missing if we're getting into the high school, small college, and then the leap to Division II, because the Division II around here, MIAA, is probably the best conference in America. And there's a lot of great umpires at the Division II level. So Chris Koski assigns that now, and there's a lot of good guys around this area who work in that league, and they're trying to move up. But it's just something that when you're coming up in the game without all these tools, you had to learn how to fend for yourself and talk your way out of things. And now you can't talk your way out of it because there's video. So you have to be even better at it.
What are the current replay rules in college baseball today? You can get one, and if you don't get it right, you don't get any? Or?
They get two before the 8th, and there's certain things they can review. Like they can review possible home run. They can review hit by pitch. You can review any play at force play or tag play in the vicinity of the base. You can review a boundary play, whether it went out of play or not. Fair foul if it goes past the infielder, because you can't really fix it if it's a bounding ball. Force play slide rule you can review. I think I'm missing one or two, but
Not balls and strikes.
no, you cannot. There's no challenge system available for that. But you'd be surprised at the scores in the power conferences for umpires. They average between 94 and 96 on every single game. So coaches aren't complaining too much because they know ahead of time you're going to show up, you're going to get 94 to 96% of them right, and they're just going to leave you alone. And that's about as good as we can get without implementing the whole thing. Now we have a 1.5 inch buffer as long as the center of the ball goes through a 2-inch thing, which boils down to 1.5 inches. So as long as the ball's in that buffer, it's considered correct either way. So then you have a little bit of play with how the catcher catches it, what it looks like if he hits a spot. If he pancakes it off the dirt, I'm not going to call it. And they know that. That's called catcher's influence. So the big league guys get to throw that out, but we don't have that process yet. But the TrackMan has been good from the standpoint of we're a lot better. The challenge is now, do we really need or want 18-year-old freshmen throwing the ball over the white? Is that possible? And you look at the times and games in college baseball. We entered the clock. We have all these things to speed the game up. Well, now the games are 3:15, 3:20 because umpires are not calling that pitch that's between the batter's box and the plate a strike, where we used to always call that pitch a strike, and now we're calling it a ball. So I think it's going to take a little bit for the players to catch up with that, and or maybe look at expanding the buffer zone or changing the strike zone a little bit, just because it's a lot to expect a 19, 20-year-old pitcher, freshman, sophomore, to actually throw it over the plate. It's challenging at some levels. The top Power 5 guys, Power 4 teams, yeah, but I mean, the NCAA make rules from NAI all the way up to Division 1. So can you imagine, some Division 3 and NAI, if you make them throw it over the white, you can only imagine how long some of those games might be.
Yeah. And I'm always shocked, and I know they're the MLB umpires, but how accurate, because I know they can, you can challenge balls and strikes now in the pros, but the last couple of years you couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But how accurate they were with that box, because they put the box on TV.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is crazy how good they are at calling balls and strikes.
Yeah. This is not coming, I don't think, from a lot of purists, and I don't think it's coming from players either. My take, and I don't know if you've listened to today and yesterday at the NFL owners meetings, they're talking about things with NFL officiating where they want an eye in the sky coming on and filling in gaps when obvious errors are making. New York calling in and changing stuff. I know for a fact MLB umpires got a significant raise to implement this ABC or the ABS system. But I think that the emergence of in-game and live game and general betting has become the issue for this, because Vegas does not want any loose ends. They don't want any error in human. They want data-driven. They want predictability, and they want black and white. That's just my opinion why some of this stuff is coming up, because billion-dollar industry of betting and sports gaming. And so if they can eliminate more of these human factors, the more money they can make, because they can be more accurate on their lines, their stuff. So we're very, I don't walk through a sports book when I go to Vegas. I go to eat and I go to the pools and I might pull a lever or two, but they're very particular about us not even walking through a sports book. So I don't want to say paranoid, but it's integrity, and we have to keep that. So I think that's why some of that is come into play.
I would assume you guys are officially unallowed to sports bet, period.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
Not even on an NFL
background
game.
checks twice a year for us.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What you brought up.
Saving yourself some money, let me tell you.
Yeah. You think you know who's going to win, and man, I'm glad I didn't bet on that game.
Yeah, just take the opposite of whatever you think. That's what I've learned.
That could be true.
Yeah. You brought up a great point about, especially the home plate umpires calling balls and strikes, how accurate they are.
Oh, it's crazy.
Especially with catchers, they practice framing their entire lives. Yeah. How do you, when you're calling balls and strikes, is it easy to tell when, he framed that?
There's different ways of catching, and I've been in this game for 30 years now. At first they were trying to scoop everything and funnel everything to their chest, so then it looked like it was there. And then there was a time where you didn't want it to move. So as soon as it hit the glove, you didn't want it to move, because if the glove moved, that told the umpire he didn't think it was a strike or he caught it, so he's pulling it back over to where it is a strike. So then there was some thought process on that, and the coach saw a lot of movement. It was a ball. He moved it. He moved it into the zone. It was out. And now there's the international, everything coming up on one knee. And so it's taken us a couple of years to do that, because they're also further back. So we're having to get closer and kind of adjust our stance and kind of get closer. But I can fool you. You could get fooled. But
I believe you.
But a guy that's done it and seen a million pitches is not going to get fooled very often. We have a perspective. If he moves, if he catches it outside of his shoulders, we know that the plate's only 17 inches and he's wider than 17. So if he catches that ball over here outside of his shoulder, it's a ball.
So when you're standing or crouched over the catcher, when you call the strike, are you watching it come over the plate? Is that that's how? So if it's on the corner, you're looking over, watching it.
You're taking
over the
kind
plate.
of a bird's eye where it comes over.
Yeah.
I'm putting my nose on the inside of the plate, and I know that if the ball comes in on the left side of my nose, it's a ball. And if it comes in on the right side of my nose, I know that it's going to be a strike, because my nose is on the inside corner.
How tough is it to call something low? Is that tough? Like if
Yeah.
it comes right over the plate, but it's a little low. Is that
because they're always doing this too, bringing it up.
Yeah.
And what we found that the set metric on TrackMan is 18 inches currently, and with the 1.5, 2-inch buffer, you can go down to 16. It's pretty hard for a pitch to be low if he catches it without the glove on the ground. So it's been some adjustment. You call it what you think was low, and then you go back and like, oh man, I missed 3 pitches. Let's look at those 3 pitches. And they send us the plays. They send us the TrackMan reports, and you click on it and you look it up and you see the frame and you see the movement of the glove, and you're like, oh well, yeah, I see why I thought it was low, but it's clipping the bottom. So then there's an adjustment the next time. Okay, I'm going to be more diligent about getting that pitch. But that's probably where I miss. Outside to righties is probably where umpires miss the most, because the catcher is reaching over here, and if your head is here, it's bringing it back. It's hard to see. So we rarely miss inside. We don't miss a whole lot up either. When we miss, it's usually low and away. Just trends, and I didn't know that prior to 5 years ago.
When there's a review, are you guys the one looking at the replay, or is there someone in your
Depends on the league.
headset?
Depends on the league. The SEC has centralized. I think centralized is coming through the ACC and maybe the Big 12 eventually too, but currently it's not. So in the SEC, you go over and the crew chief just gets on the headphones and they go, hey, we're under review. The call in the field is this. We're looking for this, and then they tell you. In the Big 12, Big 10, American, most of the other ones, a non-calling umpire and the crew chief will go. And then if it's the crew chief's call, then somebody else. And you're going and looking at a camera with the producer showing you. And some cameras are better than others. Some refresh rates are better than others. Some are HD cameras, some are not. So to be 100% to overturn something, you got to be pretty sure, especially with some of the technologies in some of the places. But it's getting better.
Do you think replay overall is good for the game?
I do. It eliminates all arguments. I don't think I've thrown a coach out for arguing a play on the bases in a long time. I think I've had 1 ejection in 2 years. It eliminates a lot of that confrontation, because at the end of the day, if you ask any umpire, he just wants it right. He doesn't want a team to get cost a run and then in the 9th inning they lose by a run, because that's what keeps us at night. Even missing the 6 or 8 pitches that we miss a game and get a 94 or 95 still keeps us up, because, hey, that was 2 strikes. What if that guy would have did this? We all know baseball isn't like that, because one thing doesn't always mean another. But we're chasing perfection, and we're chasing something that's impossible to get to.
That makes me think of that. I think the umpire's name was Jim Joyce.
Yeah. The no-hitter?
The Tiger.
With
Yeah, it
Tubal?
might have even been a perfect game.
Yeah, it was a perfect game.
That the guy was out. It was a bang-bang play. He was out in the third out of the 9th inning.
Yep.
He called him safe.
Yep.
Man.
The
So when you
humanity
bring
in
up
that.
replay being good,
Yeah.
that would have been nice to have replay
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, those two still have a relationship. It's really cool.
I bet.
The player and the umpire. And the next day, I think he brought out the lineup card,
Yep.
and it was a good moment, just in humanity.
Yeah. That is so tough.
So tough. It's interesting how long baseball took to implement review, especially on the bases. Like the Royals won a World Series off of it in 1985 off of, well, they ended up winning Game 7, but in Game 6, the series is probably over.
Yep.
You know, it's interesting that
I think
even
baseball is
at that level,
probably, it's called the pastime for a reason, because, you know, a lot of older people watch it, and it's got a lot of tradition, and people don't like to break tradition. And I think that's one of the reasons why some of these guys are in the Hall of Fame too, because they're older, more conservative in general. But I don't know why, but it's coming now. It's coming everywhere, every level.
So you've done conference tournaments and postseason. Mm-hmm. How is it going into games knowing both teams are playing for their season? Is that different than, you know, just a run-of-the-mill
It
regular
is
season
until
game?
You call one strike. You know, it always is. I worked Ole Miss and Murray State last year, the championship game of their regional, behind the plate. And, you know, it was Murray State they lost that game, but then there was an if game. But once the first couple strikes were in there, it's just a normal game, and you just kind of phase the 6,000, 7,000 people out, and then you get focused on any level, any step that you did. You know, the first time I worked a junior college game, the first time I worked a junior college playoff game, the first time NAI playoff, or, you know, any time you're working a milestone, it's kind of a big moment inside, and nervousness. And to me, I always tell young umpires, being nervous means you care. And so you care that you want to do a good job, and so that helps. But it is until the first play goes off, and then you got a job to do. And I tell young umpires this: every umpire that I started at West Urban for 24 years, I said, hey, if they yell at you about a pitch, if you get the next one right, they will stop. And so if you think you missed a pitch, or they think you do, just refocus, re-see the next ball, re-see the next pitch, see it out of his hand, focus on just getting the next one right. And if you do, they'll stop. So that's kind of been my philosophy throughout, is just forget the last pitch, just like a player. Focus on the next one and get the next one right, and be confident about it, and be tall about it. Don't call it and lower your head. And I think it was a strike. You know, there's a lot of arrogant, confident, cocky umpires out there, but I think you have to be a little bit to do what we do. A lot of great guys, but you have to, in order, you know, and there's 7,000 people that disagree with you, and you're the only one that thinks you're right. You have to have an air of convictability and convincibility that you have to have. And it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone at all. The guy that played it all of his life and coached it, some of them can't do what we do. They just don't like it, don't want that. I don't even call it pressure. It's just the focus.
I miss the West Urban parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They were always respectful.
Yeah. I got some stories out there. I mean, it's crazy. If we could not let any parent sit between first base and third base, can you imagine the amount of extra coaching that could go on, and the amount of actual fun that could be had? And there's some teams that are good at it, of course, and there's some teams that's not. And we have to keep focused. No one's going to the big leagues. You gotta. At 7 years old, guess how many years experience the umpire has? 0. At 8 years old, how many? Maybe 1. At 9 and 10, maybe 1. So we got to have some grace in that as a society. One year we implemented a rule where we would waive your team fees and we would waive your player fees if you came and umpired 5 games. And there was about 6 takers in the 5 years that we did that, because no one wanted to come do that.
Wow.
So we waived team fees. We were willing to give up a lot, and we thought it would cultivate umpires or whatever and give them, and there was just not many takers at all out there for that. So it tells you what kind of job it is, and how they just don't want any part of it. But and it's not just West Urban. I'm not banging. I love West Urban. I was there for 24 years. It's given me a lot. To this day, we still say the best play West, and that's kind of the way that we like to think of it. But yeah, so there's a lot of umpires that have come through West Urban that have ended up working college baseball, and that's something that I'm proud of too. I think last count was 10 or 12 guys in my time there have gone on and worked, college baseball and had some successful career. 2 just here in Wichita. Mark Wagers, one of your guys' old teachers, and me both started at West Urban, and now we're both, some of the top umpires in the country in the Big 12 and the Big 10. So It all started there. Just like any player, any coach, any official, you got to start at the bottom and work your way up. So
The baseball parents that would yell at West Urban, there was no worse look. They think everybody's looking at the umpire. No, man. We're looking at you.
Pathetic.
We're looking at you, dummy.
Yep.
God. That was always so crazy about West Urban.
Yeah.
And everywhere else, really.
Yeah, everywhere else. I was my son was on a team, and I said, "Hey, don't look at me when the umpires make calls." He played for a team that was very good, and sometimes the coaches didn't like the fact that my son was on that team because they felt like they got all the calls, when in reality they're missing 20 calls a game anyway. Does it matter if they missed 8 and 12 or what? But I told my parents, I'm like, you will not yell at any umpires. And there was a night that I had to call time. I yelled at Sam, the home plate umpire. Hey, Sam, don't throw another pitch till this guy's out of here. And I threw out one of the parents on my own team. So you just have to set that example, and you have to be willing to do it. And towards the end, I just started handing a parent a piece of paper like, hey, you've been ejected. If you'd like to talk about this, I'll be in the parking lot waiting. And then by the time they're done reading the paper, I was already in the parking lot. And so then they would come find me all huffy and puffy, but eliminate the interaction even right there. But and it's now I schedule all the umpires for high school now too in the City League, varsity and JV, and it's not a knock on administration or athletic directors because they got a hard top job too. But we can't wait for the umpire to stop the game to get an administrator to address a fan. That should be proactive. The AD, hey, we're not going to yell at the umpire tonight. You can't do that, and have them stop it. But then what does the parent do? Then the parent turns their wrath on the administrator, and they don't want that smoke either. So it's just something we have to get away from in society. And I referee junior college basketball too, and I go to, I won't say the college, but there's a college that has a bunch of little kids on the front row, and their dads are yelling at me. Guess what the 9-year-old boy's doing now? Screaming and yelling things at me too. And I'm like, you're teaching your son this.
Yeah,
he's 9. I got this 9-year-old kid telling me I'm a joke. And I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing? We've got to get that out of sports. Even it bleeds into sports betting with players. You know, a kid strikes out 4 times and then hey, you cost me $15 on DraftKings. Well, who cares? You know, we've got to get that out of sports. You can cheer for them. You can even be disappointed and think they're overpaid. But at the amateur level, we can't be sending text messages to players. And well, for me, I worked a game, high-profile game with number 1 and number 3 in the nation this year down in Texas, and there was a bases-loaded pitch that I called at 97 miles an hour that was 0.4 inches inside, and I called it for strike 3. It was considered a correct pitch because it was in the buffer zone. I think the coaches really didn't say anything, but I called it for strike 3. It would have walked in the winning run for one team, and then the other team ended up winning, and there were 15 to 20 social media posts on my ex, who's not even in my name, by the way. So they had to do some deep digging. I don't have Facebook. My ex is in somebody else's name, so they had to do some deep digging, but they blasted pretty good officiating, and it's does that for basketball. Higgins, the guy that signs the Big 12, John Higgins, he won a pretty big lawsuit against Kentucky back in the day. And so it's just out there. So that's why we always take that.
What happened with that?
It down. You know, I'm not sure. I think they doxed him where they sent in a bunch of reviews on his house or insurance.
Business.
Yeah, his company. They put like 50 0 stars on his thing, which dropped his Better Business Bureau thing and his Yelp review, and cost him a lot of money, and he could prove it. And so I'm not trying to talk his business, but I think it's pretty well documented out there that, you know, you can say the guy's a joke, and you can say, but then they were talking about my family and my wife, and it was pretty tough time.
Man, that's
People
scary.
are just crazy.
I'll show you the picture when we're done. It was 97.4 inches inside the line there. So
I want to say that was Kentucky and Carolina when the May kid hit that game winner.
Might have been.
I think it was that game. And I think he's got like a roofing business or something.
That's
and
right.
They went after it. Oh, you got it, Blake? John Higgins sued Kentucky Sports Radio in 2017, alleging their coverage of a 2017 NCAA tournament loss to North Carolina incited harassments, death threats, and damage to his Nebraska roofing business. The lawsuit, which sought over $75,000, it ended up being dismissed. Was affirmed in 2020, though. Wow.
They might have paid him not to go to court or something. I don't know.
He was always graded like the best college basketball ref, too.
Yeah,
It was his hair.
His
His
really-
hair
yeah.
just made him
In the,
stick out.
in the choker whistle.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's got a little.
He did a ton of Wichita State games
back in the day,
when they
yep,
were good,
you're right,
like in
you're
the
right.
2010s.
You're right.
He was coaching at every home game, it seemed like.
Yeah, he was.
Everyone
on
knew
the
his
big
name.
games. There's a few of those now. I think Kip Kissinger and him are tight, and Kip's from up there too. And then Brooks Wells is kind of that same mold up there. But yeah, it can be trying for you.
It's just a
as an
thankless
official for that.
job.
Yeah.
Like, you know you're doing great when no one says anything. You're not getting thanked for it.
Yeah.
They're not saying anything. And
The
then when you
relationships
mess
with
up, it's-
coaches is good too. When you've been in a league as long as I've been, and some of these, they are pretty good guys, and they know they respect the fact what you do, and they know that you are one of the best, and so they show. I think that's when friends and myself included get a little bit upset is when a coach doesn't give us the respect that we feel. Not when he yells at us, but when he does something that we feel like might just come at our integrity or whatever, like a level of respect, because we've been doing his games for 22 years as a player, as an assistant coach, as a head coach here, as a head coach here, and now head coach here. So they know that what they get is the best around, and so you can kind of have those relationships and see them emerge. You can tell too when they're at a lower school and then they keep getting moved up, and they got what it takes to win at the next level.
On the high school and little league level, people need to realize that without umpires and refs, we don't have high school leagues or little league. So when you degrade a ref or an umpire, it's such a bad idea.
Yeah.
Without good, it'll either water down the product if we don't have good umpires and refs, or we won't have good umpires or refs at all. Man.
When city league schools go to change, like tonight, storms may be coming, whatever, or tomorrow if it rains and rains it out, they always have to call me first and say, hey, do we even have any people available to work this makeup game if we put it on Friday or if we put it on Monday? I'll say, I don't know. Put it on. There's a website that I use. It's called Arbiter Sports to assign officials. So they put the game on there, and then I can pull up any official who's registered with that site around that we all use, see who's open. I'll be like, there's nobody open. So they'll have to pick a different date. It's happening now where that's happening. In 2020, 2021 at West Urban, we had to use one guy on some fields often just because there was not enough people to do it. So your point is very true. And what do they all try to do? They all try to play on the same nights. So we got to get away from every Tuesday, Friday for basketball and every Monday, Thursday for baseball. We got to venture out in some other days and do some inventive things to do that. Even in football officials too need to look at playing maybe one game in each league on Thursday. So that frees up, 7 officials for the next day that they could go do some, or a whole crew. But we're going to have to be a little bit smart about it. We're going to have to think outside the box when we're moving forward, trying to predict how many officials we have, and the number is been dwindling. But that's a big thing for me right now. Why I reached out to you guys was, we need umpires. We need sports officials. Don't let these parents do it. There's someone around if you walked up in any gym and you said, hey, I'm thinking about being a referee. Would you help me get started, get me more in direction? Whoever it is, football, basketball, baseball, they would go out of their way and bend over backwards to help you get in touch with the right people to help that. So if you're a former coach, a former player, and the money, people don't understand it. At the lower levels, it's okay, but high school umpires are making $200 for a doubleheader for varsity. That's nothing to sneeze about. Now, you're not going to get that in 1 year. It's going to take you 2 or 3 to work up to that level, but it's a good second part-time job for especially a teacher like me.
How do you think we attract more umpires and refs, other than pay, obviously?
Yeah, you can't just keep paying them more and more and more because it's still going to be a problem. Like you said, we're just going to have more administration that take the lead on that and shut some of that stuff down. We're going to have more umpires and referees that don't feel like this new kid has taken my spot. We're going to have, it's a multi-pronged, multi-headed animal that you got to do. And, we got to implement and put in more opportunities for people to work postseason too in high school. Sometimes it seems like the same guys are doing it, and the new guy in charge of high school is open to that, and he's coming up with some ideas to try to get some new guys involved, because they work 2 or 3 years and they never get postseason. Like, well, what am I doing? The same guys are going to get it anyway. But he's done a good job of trying to select some new 3-year or younger officials to do that. And so to have an answer, I think it's a multi-headed thing, but we just got to have more bodies. Just like anything, you're going to get 20 and then 6 of them are going to stick. And so you're just going to have to go through that whole process each year.
What's the average age of like collegiate umpires? Are you guys, is it an older age, or is it you guys
at Division
younger?
One?
Yeah.
So it's kind of been this is interesting too, because 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when you got out of minor league baseball, you were just done. Now, people go through minor league baseball for just a year or two to quit so they could come work college, because they get fast-tracked into the Power Fours, because the Power Fours, we're making $1,300 a game. So they're wanting to do that. And now there's a lot more minor league baseball umpires in the game, in college, coming out of pro ball, because the money is, they can make as much in one weekend as they did in a whole month in pro ball. And so a lot of those guys are getting out and coming in, and then you got college guys who have worked, junior college and AI in their 30s, and then now, so Power 4 age, average age is probably close to 45, 47 years old, because it does take a while to get there. Just like you turn on a KU game, you don't see any 24-year-old kids refereeing those games. You see 35 to 50, 55-year-olds working those games. So it takes a while to get to that level. But KCAC junior college around here, anywhere from 28 to 39, 40, 44 years old. And some guys just don't have the passion to move up. They just like the level they're at. Some guys don't have the time from work that allows you to travel to UCLA and Texas Tech one weekend, and Oklahoma State the next, and K-State the next, and just going all over the country, Iowa the next, Illinois the next. So it just kind of depends on your job too.
I know we touched on Brent Chemnitz earlier, but man, after just talking to him last week, he's still got that fire.
Yeah.
I bet he was very vocal about a strike zone that he didn't like.
Man. I think I said to you before, I don't know that he would last many games with TrackMan. I remember him getting thrown out in 4 pitches. One of my buddies threw him out in 4 pitches, and I think someone even got him sooner than that one time. But, he'd say, that's where you got to throw the baseball, and the catcher didn't move his glove. And he'd go out and he'd wait at the mound, and he'd stand there, and you knew you were about to get it. And so you would, if you were right, you'd beat him there. Like I remember one time he come out of the dugout and he's going to the mound, and I know that pitch is 6 inches outside, and I balled it. Most of the time it was a good catcher, and the catchers wouldn't lie to him. The catchers, they all have a sign. They're like, fist means yes, or this, or the glove, they'd touch their knee if they thought it was good, or he'd put his glove on his head. We spent the whole game trying to figure out what their sign was back to Brent. But they'd tell him. So if you knew you were right, Brent would come out of there and you'd beat him to the mound. That pitch is outside, Brent. You're not going to get that pitch. That's where you got to throw the baseball. And then he'd turn around and we'd go back. There was one time, I remember we were at K-State. I come in, and sometimes he's just mad at his defense. So the bases are loaded, ball hit up the middle, they're up 2. At K-State, I'm working the plate, and the ball goes under his center fielder's glove and rolls to the wall. And it clears the bases, and the hitter is on third. It's not a triple, but he's on third. And he goes out, and he's, I knew from the time I left this dugout I was going to be ejected. So sure enough, I threw him out. And then we get him calmed down, and then this other guy, Bob Hamoka, comes down and goes, now, Brent, what seems to be the problem? He's like, what the problem is? Da-da-da-da-da. So once he got going, but the greatest thing about Brent is when it's over, it was over. He maybe had a little bit of memory in the past, but he didn't keep carrying. And that's the way it used to be. You'd throw him out the next day, shake hands, go on. Some coaches now, they think you have it in for them or whatever. This guy don't like me. Well, maybe it's just I missed the call. It has nothing to do with you. The good ones are the ones that can get over it. And Brent was always good about that. But the time when Brent and Gene were going back and forth were some priceless times. But they were good. They were good, and their players loved the heck out of them. I loved to go umpire their games back in the day because you were going to get good crowds. You were going to get their best effort every time, and they expected you to give them yours. So,
yeah, they had a great run. They made the NCAA tournament every year in the 90s. That blew me away when I was digging on Chemnitz. I was like, oh, man.
Yeah.
They had an awesome, awesome run.
Mm-hmm.
I hear sometimes that coaches will purposely get tossed to fire up their team. Is that real or is that fiction?
Yeah, I had one this year. I won't say the team, but the player, they were playing really bad. They're getting beat by a team they shouldn't have. This team was preseason ranked, preseason high pick and a high conference. And his kid had popped off. He goes, "Is that as far out you're going to go?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's right there on the white." And the kid goes, "The white of the batter's box." So I'm like, hold on here. So I get in college baseball, we give him warnings. I'm like, "Hey, coach, this is his warning. This is your guys' ball strike warning," because he was popping off, and he had said something earlier too. So I gave him a warning. He comes out, and you could just tell he wanted, his team was behind. I was like, I don't know why you're out here. You can't be out here. If you stay out here, I'm gonna take a step. If you're still out here, I'm gonna throw you out. He said, "Well, I guess you're gonna have to throw me out then." So, and sometimes they come out, especially in the early days. "I'm firing me up. I know you got the call right, but just throw me out, and then we're gonna go at it." "Okay, you ready to go?" "Okay." I'm like, "Raise your hands." "Okay, raise my hands." "Okay, point at me." "Okay, point." And then I'd turn around and throw him out, and then we'd have a little deal, and then we'd go on. If they're playing bad, if they needed to fire up the team, and Gene was the best at it, firing up his team and take a couple steps out. What? "You heard me. I said be quiet," and then the fans fed off of that too. But it does happen. I've heard of stories where a guy's like, "Hey, my wife just went into labor. I need you to throw me out." I go, "Okay."
Oh my gosh.
Minor league baseball. Or the guy, "I got to go pick up my wife at the airport." Minor league baseball. This is stories that other guys have told me. "So I'm going to come out in about the third, and you're going to throw me out so I can go get my wife." "Okay." Come out, and then he throws him out, and he goes and gets his wife. Next day, "Hey, you get your wife?" "Yeah, her flight was on time. We went out to a nice dinner," So sometimes the guy hadn't had a day off. The catcher needs a day off. He's going to do something in minor league baseball. He needs a day off, I guess. So you just go on, and nobody else knows it, but
That's hilarious that you just cooperate with them.
oh, yeah, what am I going to do? Let him yell at me and not throw him out? Then I lose credibility.
Yeah. There's some magic words where you're like, if I hear this, you're gone.
Yeah, you or your. Anytime it's "your horse blank" or "you're terrible," you can say that's terrible. But if you say "you're terrible," that's usually it's you or your before, and they know that. Or after a warning.
So they can say F that. They can't say F you.
Sure, to a point.
Or your F.
Unless you say it it 9 times, after I've given you a warning, then we'll draw the line somewhere. But, yeah. I back in the day, though, back before cameras, back before replay, back before any of that, we got away with a lot more stuff, just screaming at each other back and forth in the dugouts, and we can't do that now.
Who was that Mets manager that got tossed and came out in like the
goggles?
Yeah, in the goggles
was,
and glasses. Who was it?
He had the big nose.
Yeah.
Bobby, yeah, I know who you're talking
Was
about.
he throwing trash cans? And he was like army crawling to the mound.
That was a minor league one, but he got ejected, and then he came back, and he was sitting in the dugout with a mustache on.
Yeah. That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was minor league.
He came in and he threw the rosin bag as like a grenade.
Right.
Yeah.
You ever seen any real meltdowns like that?
Oh yeah. When I was working in NEI, at the old Lawrence Dumont Stadium, somebody picked up the base and he couldn't get it out. And I said, "Twist it." He's twisting it, and he gets it, and he runs over. He goes to first base, throws it in the stands. He says, "You're not using the base. Why should we?" And
Oh my
so it was and then I think my partner told him to get out of his dirt, and that's what set him off. He's like, "Get out of my dirt." So that's kind of a running joke too, where get out of my dirt. But I've seen some meltdowns, so yeah.
That is hilarious.
But now we can suspend coaches if they don't leave when we eject them. They get about 10 seconds, and then we go, "Okay, it's your warning. If you don't," in college baseball, if you don't go, you'll be suspended for prolonged arguing. And then we give them the 2 signs, and then we can suspend them for 2 games if they don't leave right away. Because NCAA college baseball doesn't want that in the game anymore. And it's done a pretty good job. You're instantaneously suspended 1 game if you get ejected and you're not the head coach. Head coach doesn't get suspended, but players, coaches, assistant coaches, anybody gets ejected, suspended the next game automatically. And then if you don't leave within 10, 15 seconds after being ejected, you get a prolonged 2-game suspension as well. So that's cut down on a lot of that.
On the high school level, you said you assign umpires and refs. How do you go about evaluating and grading performance? Because, I mean, at that level, you want a confidence build, at the same time, but also be like, hey, here's where you can get better. How do you go about that?
With new guys, I really rely on veterans, so I'll match them up. I do the City League basketball, and that's easy because we have Huddle now, and I can get on Huddle and I can watch any game. So I'll pull up a game, and I try to watch at least one quarter of every game. So I watch about 5 quarters of basketball the day after. And you can watch it on, plus 10 seconds since I get through the timeouts. And you kind of watch and get a feel for the new guys or whatever. But then in baseball, in times when I can't get to it, you just put them with a veteran and you say, hey, tell me what your feedback is on this guy. And don't be afraid to tell them. You just give them a quick text message before, hey, new guy, work with Joe, help him out, do whatever, let me know what you think. And then they're always good about that and doing that. So the mentoringship is the big way to evaluate him. But I make it a point to try to get to every gym during the year, and I live out west, so then I'll go to Northwest and Carroll multiple times to see different crews work, to see them. And then baseball as well. On my way home from work, I'll stop by West Urban and watch, or West Side Athletic Field and watch a couple of innings here and there and try to give them some. But there's so many opportunities for education for a new umpire and referee. There's so many camps. I help with a camp called Collegiate Baseball Umpire Association Camp in Kansas City, and it is the instructors. There is 10 guys that have been to the College World Series that are instructing, and 5 more guys that have worked NCAA Super Regionals, and 5 more guys that have worked regionals and conference tournaments. So we go to a place called Home Field or Creekside up there with all turf fields. You have, 17, 18-year-old kids playing that are really good, and we evaluate you, and we're on the field helping you. And it's the same way with basketball. There's lots of basketball camps around where college veteran officials can watch you work a game or halftime and then meet and do it. So there's definitely opportunities where you can be seen, be evaluated, and get better. There's probably 5 to 6 basketball camps just within a 30-mile radius here in the summer. And then baseball, there's some smaller ones, but the big ones are in Kansas City. But you could find a camp anywhere in the summer for basketball, and you could find one in the fall for baseball. So there's definitely training opportunities.
Are there certain coaches in the area that you pair with certain umpires and refs? Say, like, there's a coach that's notoriously kind of hot. You put seasoned guys typically with their games, or is it just kind of
I try not to. I don't. If a coach sends me an email or a text, I don't ever want this guy again, I don't respond. They don't get to pick who they get. I put on the game who I think can work it, and sometimes I do notice big matchups like Cape and Carroll. It doesn't matter how good Carroll is or how good Capen is, it's always going to be tough to manage. Not the game, but just all the things around it. So I always make sure I got 3 veteran people on that game. And then you look at the year before. So like, when Heights and Capen plays, I try to make sure that it's not to say other people couldn't handle the game, but just try to make sure that the 3 guys that are available that I got on it are definitely, high school playoff officials or whatever, because it's like that. Sometimes you'll get a mix, and I'll try to put a new guy with 2 experienced guys to try to help them out. So I don't ever keep people away from coaches or situations just because that's not life, And if the coach doesn't want you and you don't want the coach, well, tough. Figure it out. We'll go through it. There's people at your work I'm sure you don't like. There's people at my work that I don't get along with, but I have to. And so that's kind of the approach that I take to it. Now, if the referee and the coach or the umpire and the coach have had issues and they've thrown them out twice, and the player or the umpire comes and says, hey, you know what, maybe I just need to stay away from him for a year, then I might look at that. But I think I've only done that once or twice. So I think it's a reflection of life. You got to learn to figure it out and get through it.
Yeah, that is a great life lesson.
Yeah.
Man. And you told me you coached a lot of the same kids Joe Auer coached. I know you were assistant with him, but Perry.
Yeah, I coached at Brooks Middle School for a long time, but I was with Joe, and I coached track in 98, 99. I coached basketball with Joe, I think in 99, 98, somewhere in there when they were good. And then so a lot of the kids that went to Brooks would then go on to Heights. Some of them would go to Southeast or some different places. But I had Perry Ellis and Evan Wessel and Dreamer Smith all on the same team. And who else? Gabe Lynch was on there too. Aaron DeGraff and Reed. All 5 of those kids went to college to play some sport. So you talk about, talent and stuff, and they would hate games. They would rather practice because we would make everything competitive, and we'd be beating teams by 50. And so they'd have to sit, and they didn't get to play the whole game. So they would rather.
They'd be beating Carroll by 50.
We would have probably been at least first place in the JV league, in the city league that year. But there's such a physicality part of that plays into it. But we were, I'll say this, there's probably not another middle school team in the state's history that would have beat that team. But it was fun to coach those kids and then become, that's when I learned how to become like a kid's cheerleader after they went through me. Until then, it was just kind of whatever, but you truly do that. And then I coached at Newman cross country for 24 years. So, a lot of those kids come and then become adults and then have kids, and then for them to still call me coach is pretty cool. So I think that's what's helped me too in baseball, is just the perspective of a coach's perspective, and basketball as well, coach's perspective. Having to deal with those kids on that, 14 to 23-year-old age range for so long, I feel like was definitely to my, positive attribute for me to be able to deal with the kids. I rarely have issues with players just because I can talk to them or whatever, teaching high school and middle school for so long. But that team liked to scrimmage like to 3, and then switch the teams up and then whatever. And, I used to make Perry play point guard every once in a while just because I knew he was going to have to know how to handle the ball. And, they were, Evan Wessel and Perry Ellis were guarding each other far before they met in the Sweet 16 at Brooks Middle School.
That is cool.
That is cool. I miss
Wow.
I miss that part of the city league time.
Yeah.
Where Connor was here at North, Heights was great under
That
Joe.
Heights team was loaded.
Yeah.
With Perry and Evans' year. I mean, like Terrence Moore.
Yeah.
Another one that went.
He went to Emporia State.
Right.
I refereed him in college.
Gavin
Right.
Thurman.
He's a good kid. Gavin Thurman went to Missouri State and then came back and actually finished at Newman. Jalen Love.
Yeah.
He was a point guard at East that played for me that year with that team as well. He was the point guard. So he played Division I basketball at Denver before he came back. He went on to East, but he played for me. Jordan Cyphers played for me at Brooks, and he went on to Utah. So we had some really good players at Brooks that went through, and they played for some good coaches at the high school level. But for a while, if you were wanting to, because I tried to coach them like Joe, because Joe's unique. I learned a lot from Joe, and I still to this day use things that he said, did, and expectations, and even overlap into cross country and other sports that I coach. But just the expectations, and Joe was a great coach, great guy, great teacher.
Who did Perry broke the scoring record? That was for all 4 years, not just 1 year, right?
I believe it
Remember
was all
that?
4, and then Connor
Was it
broke
all
that, I
4
believe.
and then Connor broke it the following year?
Yeah, Connor, it was 1 year or 2. I think it was 1 year later, because we hadn't lost in 3 years, and then we played Pleasant Valley, and Connor played on that team, and he scored 28 of their 30 points, and we lost 29-30. That was our first loss. I think we won like 44 games in a row, and Connor beat Brooks' team when he played for his dad at Pleasant Valley. He only played his 8th grade year. He didn't play his 7th grade year.
Who held that record before Perry? Because that stood for a long time. Do you remember?
That's a good question. Bob Lutz would know if he was sitting
He
here.
would
Dang
know.
it. He pulled up his top
I want to
10
say
list.
Ricky
I'm
Ross
sure it was
maybe,
on.
or
Maybe, but you got like Antoine.
Antoine.
Who else? Like Darnell.
Darnell maybe.
Yeah, Darnell was it.
Darnell
with the Heights?
Valentine maybe. Ricky Ross.
If I remember right,
Val
stood for a
Barnes,
long
maybe.
It was
time.
probably I mean, I don't know for
I don't
sure,
know.
but I would guess Darnell.
Yeah.
Valentine.
Well, Perry started as a freshman. He was a Gatorade Player of the Year all 4 years. It was funny because Sports Illustrated for Kids was in our gym during tryouts, taking pictures and doing stuff. And then I got signed papers from Roy and Coach Cal and, KU with Bill. So, every time he'd go on somewhere with with Joe or with his parents when he'd bring me back a signed thing. I was getting letters in 8th grade that was just coming into my mailbox from everywhere.
Holy cow.
Yeah, when Sports Illustrated rolls up to your tryouts, it's a little different.
No kidding. Man, I'm a fool for holding out hope that Perry might stay home and go to WSU.
I don't think so. I think he was genuine. He was genuine
Yeah,
in
I don't
in
think
his,
it was foolish to think that.
No,
You
he
don't think
didn't.
so?
He didn't. He wasn't just in it for the trips. I mean, his parents, they're great. I don't know. Talking to Fonda sometime might be amazing because she's tiled into this. But his parents were very good with him very early. They knew that. I won't tell the story, but they knew that he was special early, and there was some opportunities for him to leave and go other places. But they knew that, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. So and you can get to where you want to go from where you're at if you just work hard enough, and he's proof for that. So I remember my wife and I went to Vegas when he was playing in the summer NBA league for one of the teams that he hooked up with, trying to make it early. And I remember we went to Top Golf and hung out with him and had wings, and there was people that would come up and try to get autographs and stuff. And he still always has time for me, still always responds to text or whatever. And he's just a great kid.
That's
Great
awesome.
That
He's
is
in Japan.
awesome.
Yeah. He brought me his final Big 12 jersey that he wore in the Big 12 tournament when they won his senior year, and signed it to me in a nice
Wow.
jersey, and I put it in a case. So yeah, it's been cool to have those relationship with those kids, and my cross country kids. I've had girls who I've given their dad speech and did the father-daughter dance with them because they didn't have someone. Wow. I've gone to a lot of weddings of those kids, and it's just been great. So I love officiating, but coaching is where I feel like, those relationships come into it.
Makes sense.
That is
And
great.
you're really impacting these young kids.
I just their cheerleader. I don't think that I'm doing anything that they couldn't do themselves, but that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm at the alternative high school now, and that's what I tell the kids. I'm just getting expectations to you, letting you know you can do it, and cheering for you. But that's something too that the umpire community has is my best friends in the world are umpires. And when things hit the fan, you can count on them. And it's been proven to me in my life several times that they might be in California or Springfield, Missouri, or Topeka, Kansas, or Mr. Wagers, who lives 2 blocks away. But if I need those guys in a time of need with a family emergency, I can count on those people to do that for me. It's truly a brotherhood, much like a military or any close-knit PD department or whatever. So it's a tight-knit group because we have to be, because we can't talk about that with other people, and we're the only ones that know what we're going through. Somebody else doesn't know. I can't go home and talk to my wife about the pitch that I missed in the top of the 9th inning that cost one team or whatever. So they can kind of help me get through that. But it's been great. It's changed my family's life, just the opportunities of being a teacher, having a job that you make just as much money at as you do your other job. And so it's just provided opportunities for your family. It's kind of a give and take too, because you're gone every weekend. Your wife's there with my 5 kids, my 9 grandkids now.
You've got 9 grandkids?
I got 9 grandkids.
How old are you?
I'm 52. So 5
look
kids, 9 grandkids. And so she took care of, held down a lot of that when I was, coming up, making average money. But now it's afforded us the opportunity to do things with our kids and our family and do things that normally wouldn't be possible, on a teacher's salary.
Good for you. And you're really doing meaningful stuff for Wichita. Signing refs, trying to bring on refs and umpires. That is important stuff. I really love to hammer home how much it matters to continue to incentivize people to become refs and umpires.
Yeah, we need them bad. Referees.
Because you don't have youth sports.
Yeah, you don't. And the lessons that the kids learn is great. And if it's done properly, hey, the ref is no different than your boss. He calls a foul on you. He says you're late, the thing's late or whatever. You just live with it. You move on. You turn the page. It's not all going to go your way. Now, I'm not saying intentionally miss calls to teach lessons, but in your communications, I tell the coaches or the kids in pregame, hey, if you don't like the call, don't jump up and down. Come over and ask me during the next free throw. Come ask me what you did. Come ask me what I saw. And I'll tell you, hey, you jumped, your hands were straight up, but you jumped from here and you landed here. So you didn't jump straight up. Your hands might have been straight up, but you jumped forward 3 feet and bumped the guy to the ground. So, just talk through it, just communication, let them know. And I think those are lessons that kids, like you said, can't have if we can't play. And the City League numbers are down in all sports, and we need to get that back up. And I'm
in player participation.
Player
or referee?
participation. Oh yeah, both. Player participation is what I was specifically talking about there. But when I was in high school, we had a freshman boys basketball team, a sophomore boys basketball team, JV and varsity. Now they're down to just varsity and JV at some schools, and a few freshmen. There's no sophomore teams hardly anywhere. There was just until last year there were 2 teams in City League that didn't even have JV baseball teams. So how are you going to develop? You can't put a freshman out there at a varsity game playing second base for the first time in high school. He's got to have to, unless he's just a phenomenon. So we got to figure out a way to get kids involved in that too. And West Irwin's a great place for that. League 42, what Bob did over there. But
yeah,
we used to have biddy basketball for basketball, and all those kids would play, and then we'd go in. Now there's no more biddy basketball.
There's no more biddy basketball?
I mean, not at the level it used to be, where there was 120 teams.
Yeah,
I mean,
biddy used to be big time.
Oh, yeah.
It used to be the
thing.
place.
Oh, yeah, right. B.J. Williams, Darren Dreifert, Brian Jackson, Amiel McGee. Those are guys that I played with when we played biddy. And they just came up, go to biddy All-Star World Games. The Stat brothers were a big part of that for a long time. So we're missing some of that in our community. And a lot of the things going on in our community, I think, can be solved with athletics and sports and good coaching, teaching life lessons. And I think that's some of the reason why we're seeing some of the things in our site, because those people have nothing else to do. They don't, we kept our son in sports as long as we did, because it gave him something to do. It gave him something to be a part of. It gave him discipline that can carry over. And so many lessons that we think about now could have helped all these people who are going through issues now with whatever political side you're on. I think getting back to some homegrown, small-town sports coaches and sports players can solve some of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, youth sports is so important. Like when you're older and you're out of youth sports, you never regret playing. Even though when you're going through it, you're like, damn it, practice tonight, or I'd rather be playing Call of Duty, when you're in it. But after, you never regret it, versus if you didn't, like I never tried out for the basketball team, and, I don't fully regret it, but, I look back like, man, maybe I should have done that. Where if you do it, you never regret it.
Never. That's how I talked kids into always doing their 5th year of eligibility. When you're old like me, you're not going to regret not doing it. You're going to regret not doing it.
Right.
So do it while you're young. Do it while you can physically, because I ran 50, 60 miles a week for a long time. From the time I was 15 till I was 25, I ran track and cross country at Wichita State, and then I coached at Mays and then coached at Newman. I'd run with those kids, but now I can't do that. My knees are done, and I always wished I could go back and do some of that stuff. I felt like I was distracted. I'm like, man, if I could have focused, maybe I could have broke 4 in the mile. I only ran, 4:11 or 4:10, whatever I ran. So if I could have focused, maybe I could have. But
do you run any of the local runs, like the River Run or the
I used to when I was younger, but I don't. Not since I started coaching, and just my knee isn't. I save now my knee, my shots, my injections for when I'm going and refereeing and umpiring, because that pays me money. Those road races don't pay me any money, so I bike for cardio now.
Oh, nice. Troy and I do river run, and
I hold the 9-year-old record, in case you want to know.
No kidding.
For the 10 kilometer, 43:23, I think.
Whoa.
When I was 9.
You're beating us by 10
You're crushing us.
We're probably
You're
low
crushing
50s right now.
Yeah,
you're crushing
on the 10K,
and it takes everything we got to do the Prairie Fire.
I don't know that I could do
everything and some.
I don't know that I could do it now. I don't know.
I just remember coming back down the hill, like you hit Grove Street, and you've got like 3 or 4 miles left, and I was thinking, I don't know if I'm gonna do. I don't know if I could do this.
Every person should have to do a half marathon, just from the mental psyche of this thing. Because if you can do that, man, you can do almost anything. If you can talk yourself into doing that, because your body's capable of more than what you think.
No doubt. And you brought up League 42. It is going great. Going to McAdams, we practiced there last Saturday. What has the development at McAdams? They've got like 4 turf fields, I think. Nice fields. Mm-hmm. And League 42 has a bunch of teams. We start April 15th. It's the first game. It's Jackie Robinson Day.
Mm-hmm.
And, it'll be rocking and rolling over there.
I remember Bob coming to me when I was at Brooks 3 years before he started the league, and we started talking about that. And there was about 4 of us that would go to Side Pockets once a month and just talk about how he was going to do it. And
He talked about that.
giving him some ideas. And, at the time I was employed by West Urban, so I didn't get a lot in. I've just bounced off, well, how do you do this? Well, here's how we do it. How do you do this? Well, here's how we do it. I think at the time, and still, it's kind of 2 different clienteles. I would like for League 42 to get to a point where the best teams at League 42 could compete at West Urban. I mean, ideally, that would be where we would want to move that train. But just being exposed to it, the number of kids that's getting exposed to a game with good coaching in a positive environment is definitely going to reap benefits for that in the long run.
Yeah, when you were talking about how the high school numbers are being down right now currently, I wonder if League 42 will make a dent in that. It's such a brilliant idea, and I really hope it does make an impact on that.
Yeah, I think it has already with some of the number. If you go out and truly take a poll on that,
and maybe it hasn't
kids that are on rosters,
Yeah, maybe it hasn't existed quite long enough to see the dividends for it, but man,
it's got to
do
something. If
something.
you look at Goddard and Mays, and even Andover Central, Goddard, Eisenhower, a lot of those are West Urban kids. So that's kind of the difference in what it is. And to be honest, baseball in the City League is going to need to evolve a little bit so they can compete in that. They're definitely capable. There's some good coaches out there at the City League level that they just need a little bit more time to get those kids some more experience so that they can develop them and go. And I see it all the time. I see the teams play when I go watch the umpires, and it's not where it was 20 years ago. In the City League basketball, I remember when I used to ref City League basketball, you could show up for Southeast and West could truly beat Southeast. It went back in the heyday, and Heights could lose to South, and everybody could beat anybody on any given night. It's not like that now. There's 3 or 4 teams that probably could not compete with the top 3 teams. It's not for lack of coaching, lack of trying. It's just they're not there yet. But it wasn't like that 20 years ago, and even before, when you were talking about in the heyday of the City League that Bob was talking about, where just truly any team could beat any other team on any given night, and that's not where it is now. But hopefully we can get that back to where it's more competitive from top to bottom, because that's what makes it a league good. And I think that's going to help the top teams if they have that experience before they go play the Shawnee Missions and the Olathes in the state tournament. At all sports, football, basketball, baseball. So you're only as good as the weakest link, they used to always say. So if you can get the bottom up a little bit, then it's going to make everybody at the top better too.
Man, Josh, this was great. That's all I had. Do you have anything for us?
I don't. I wrote some things down, but I think we touched on it all. Probably a memorable moment that I would add is I worked Trevor Bauer's last game in college at UCLA, and the team that he faced was Aaron Judge's team. So I umpired Aaron Judge and Trevor Bauer in an NCAA regional at UCLA in 2011. So Trevor Bauer was a pitcher, and Aaron Judge was the hitter playing left field for Fresno State. So that was pretty cool. But along the way, there's been tons of players that have reached the big leagues. I watch the Dodgers almost every night. I'm like, I remember that guy at Oklahoma State, or I remember that guy here, that guy here. But I kept the lineup card too. I have Aaron Judge and Trevor Bauer.
So you
knew. You knew when he came out of the bullpen, he threw 101 at the catcher. And then you knew when Aaron Judge dug in and his feet were this big and he was huge. You kind of knew. But I kept the lineup cards from most of the really big games. That was one of my first regional games too. So it was pretty cool.
Any other stories stick out to you over the 30 years? That's pretty crazy.
Man, there's hundreds of stories and funny anecdotes that umpires have. We say we need to write books about it, but You know, the story where the guy hits the base and goes on, the coach comes out yelling, he said, what do you got? What do you got? Well, I thought he was coming from the other way, you know, and it calms the coach down and he goes away. Or when the guy slides in at second and you call him safe and the defensive coach thinks he's out and they're yelling and the coach is yelling and the kid's yelling and the umpire looks at the second baseman and goes, are they coming? And he looks around and he looks and goes, yep, they're coming. He goes, how many are there? So there's literally 100 stories of that. And when us umpires sit around at the NBC World Series and drink one or two pops after the game, the stories start flowing. So next time you're at the NBC World Series, you let me know. After the game, we'll come down underneath and you guys will hear some pretty good NBC World Series stories.
Oh,
and
that would be tremendous.
Working the Kansas Stars was great because they had it like a little non-thing in their contract where they only wanted Big 12 umpires to work the plate just to make sure they were getting quality guys. So I ended up working the plate for them a couple of times when they were here, and they were all great guys. They were all tremendous guys to interact with, but that's pretty cool. I got to say I umpired Roy Holiday's last game he pitched before he died in the plane crash. So, you know, Chipper Jones and all those guys were signing stuff for us and doing stuff. So that was cool.
That's cool. Clemens.
Yeah, Roger Clemens. And then I umpired his sons, both of them at Texas. And he came in one time and, hey, I know you, da-da-da. So we talked and he was going to take me golfing, but I didn't have my clubs and I had to go umpire a game. But it's cool. Those guys they're human, just like the rest of us. They like the umpire stories too.
That's cool.
That is neat.
I forgot about that team. That was loaded with big leaguers.
Oh, yeah, it was fun. It was fun. Yep. Lots of guys moving on. And you can see them, the Division I guys, you watch them on TV all the time. I remember when that guy was at this team, or I think he was his coach. And then, you know, so it's a fun time early in every Major League Baseball season because you look to see who's made it or whatever. So working the Alaska League was great. That's where I met my wife. Working the old Kenai Oilers. I met her on a rain out in Kenai, Alaska. So going up there, it never gets dark, so you just stay up drinking until 5 a.m. because the bars are open. You go into the bar, it's light. You come out of the bar, it's light. So it was just a good time up there in Alaska. And you learn how to umpire up there because it's kind of like the minor leagues every day, 52 games in a row. So,
wow. I've always been fascinated with Alaska.
Yeah.
What a wild place.
Yeah, it's fun in the summer.
We bought it for like cents an acre.
Yeah. Yeah, good
Same with the
payoff
Louisiana Purchase.
with the-
Which is
Yeah.
like
With the
half of
oil.
the United States.
Yeah.
That's where we're sitting right now.
Yeah.
It's good to know that under the stadiums where the 12-ounce curls take place.
Yes, especially after the game. There's a
We're going to take you up on that.
There's a local business who we trade tickets with, and they give us pop. So
All right.
it's pretty fun.
Very cool.
Yep. Global Liquor did it for a while, and now Ryan's does it. So it's good partnership. They get box seats and tickets, and then they give us a little bit. So it's a good time.
Awesome. You got anything, Troy?
I don't.
You
This
have
was
to
a
come.
treat.
You come check it out, the NBC World Series, and I'm sure Katie will get you guys the full treatment, and she's the GM, and then we'll get you down underneath to hang out with the umpires because we're the ones that know where the bodies are buried.
We would love to do that.
Yes,
That sounds
we would.
awesome.
Yep.
No,
That'd be
no
great.
joke.
This year, for sure. My daughter's getting married on the 25th, the first weekend, but after that, I'll be back. So that second week, take me up on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Yeah.
You can go make fun of Mr. Wagers.
All
And
right.
We're in. We're in.
Sounds
All right,
good.
guys.
Awesome, sir. Well, thank you so much for doing this.
My pleasure. Good time.
Awesome.